Welcome back. I'm here with Mayor Martin Ritsma. Martin, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for the opportunity, Peter. I appreciate it.
Well, now we're into April. Let's talk about a lot of different things, but I want to talk about the Grand Trunk Railway. Tell us what's going on in that regard.
Physically, people don't see a lot of change, a lot of movement there, but certainly it's like the duck on the water. It's kind of coasting along, it's moving its feet, but you don't see that. So there's a lot of activity in the background, and certainly a lot of that activity stems from the work from our ad hoc committee. That committee has been struck, as you know. It's chaired by former Mayor Matheson, and the biggest piece around that committee that's going to in the long term advise council, recommend to council, but right now it's going through a visionary process, and it's going really well. I'm part of that, and so we are getting down to a point of what we truly believe should be on that location. So and then to follow that up in the latter into April, into the spring months, we are going to have some open house sessions. One that's going to be up at the Rotary Complex, one here in City Hall, for public to be engaged in that visionary piece. So, uh, not a lot that people they drive by and go, "Wow," but this is necessary work, and I'm so pleased with the work of the men and women that are in that group. It's an amazing group. And so I think once we get that piece, I know council did look at and did approve a 120-day working plan. So it gives us some parameters. So certainly happy with how that work is going.
Martin, I'm so excited to see Britannia Street in the housing. Tell us about that project and tell us about the city's vision for housing.
Great question, and certainly Britannia Street is it's one of those things where you say partnership works. And last week, I was lucky. On Friday of last week, I was in and to a pizza party, and the residents from both of those locations invited me into their big rec room, and we had pizza, and to acknowledge the opening of those locations. And those partnerships are with certainly the government of Ontario, certainly the municipality of Stratford, the work by social services. We even in phase two have partnered with our CAS, and so those are all things that bring a special nuance to that project, and informs of what we can do if we work collectively. And you look at the needs of different agencies, and you say, you know what, we can work with you on that. And so with regards to housing, and that's an important part. That's housing. And one of our challenges in our community is not a specific house or type of dwelling. It's a mixture. And when we talk about the Grand Trunk, just going back to that, maybe that mixture of housing is on that site where we see higher density, where it goes up, and where you see mixed housing, where you see condos and maybe supportive housing in the same building. Co-generational housing in a high-rise setting. So kids can learn from the elderly. The elderly, somebody might pop out and get something for somebody that can't get to the grocery store, or there might be reading time between, co-generational families, either families that they pick or families that are within. So it's all types of housing. Last week I had the opportunity to visit one of our first garden suites in Stratford. Absolutely gorgeous, 475 square feet. A couple has moved in. They have sold their family home, which once again helps those individuals that are, young families that are looking for their family home. They're expanding. They need a bigger footprint. This couple didn't want to go into a retirement setting. What didn't want, and so they've moved into a garden suite. And when you think of housing, and if we can get 20, 30 of those locations, or those garden suites, in people's backyards, wow, that's 20 to 30 homes that we didn't have. So everything from, I was down to visit a shipping container factory where they're producing, where they can lift that shipping container up. That's a finished product and just drop it by crane into your not drop, set it kindly set. But so it's a myriad of rental, and I can't you know express the importance of rental. People need places to live because you and I both know so many people drive into Stratford to work and then drive home again outside of our city. We need to create housing for them that they can be part of a community, after work, where they can take Susie to basketball or Johnny to piano or whatever the situation is, and be part of our family within the community. So that mix of housing, I know, when I talk about, I think, achievements in our city moving forward, I think one of our biggest achievements is that around changing the mindset of what housing looks like. And I'm pleased to be on a council where their mindset is changing. We historically looked at a house that, it's facing a road, it's got a lovely picket fence, a big front yard, big backyard. Those things have all changed, and the density piece has changed. So housing is probably my number one challenge. Even housing, looking forward to housing as we prepare for supportive housing for our most marginalized men in particular, that they have a home to go to every night, an address every night.
Martin, what would you say if you were to be something that you're really happy about, one of the successes since you've been mayor? What would that be?
You know what? I think it's relationship building. That's my forte. Perhaps not the intellectual IQ is the strongest here in Mayor Ritsma's department, but certainly the emotional IQ. And I mean that with all sincerity. I think leaders are, lead by different styles and different ways, and certainly the relationship building. And with that relationship building, that positive communication, whether it's with staff, whether it's people that are in industry, small business, our residents, that open communication so that they are not adverse at asking you those challenging questions. I try to get to farmers market once a month, and boy, you're there. You're in the fishbowl, and that's okay. And people ask me challenging questions, and I do respond on the spot. And if I don't, I always carry a black binder, a little black notebook. I take notes and I get back to them. So I think that has been a big success for me, that open communication. And the other thing I want to add in there, because certainly we know the challenges of transportation, challenges within our community, but beyond. And, the challenges of with our rail, passenger rail, the Onyx bus that is now here in Stratford that will take people to Pearson, take them to London Via, will take them to the rail station, in Toronto, Union Station. That as a stopgap as we continue to build that necessary passenger rail, that's another huge success. And to hear people saying, yeah, that's making a difference in my life. So you know what? I guess it all comes down to my biggest success, I believe, is impacting people's everyday life.
Well, Mayor Ritzman, thank you for your leadership at City Hall. Thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Peter.
Coming up next, we're going to talk to Bill in the climate momentum.